Christmas! From Tea and Trail Towers, the #1 trail running podcast, and #3 on the GB running podcast charts, guaranteed. Yes, heavy flex. Guaranteed the only one in that top 3 that is recorded surrounded by, I'm going to list off laundry, dog hair, some questionable leftovers from Britain's breakfast. I can see a football. I can see where the football has already broken some Christmas ornaments. Hey, but that's life. And we wouldn't have it any other way. It's real. We're here for it. And you guys too, all aboard the Total Chaos Christmas train. I think this week leading up to Christmas, why is it so mad? People go mad. People go crazy.
I think it's just a change of the normal. Do you remember in the heat of the pandemic when everybody just went nuts for toilet roll? I think that was the big purchase. And we all just lost our shit basically for about 4 months. And then we normalised.
Don't swear at the Christmas party, please.
Sorry.
I just suggested to Gary had a mince pie at our Christmas party and he, well, no. I love a mince pie, but you know what they say? A moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips with those mince pies.
Do you like the old Christmas pud? Do you like all that stuff?
Yep, I love it all, Gary. Just rub it straight on my thighs. I would happily live the Christmas. I'd happily live a Victorian Christmas with suet pudding, mince pies, just anything.
You know what I saw yesterday? This is the level of the TV that I'm watching at the moment. I was watching some Aldi Christmas show, and I'm not too sure where it was. And yeah, it's not really great for vegetarians, but they had a pigs in blankets restaurant.
I watched the Harrods Christmas show and they were rolling up all the animals inside each other to make this like...
Ooh. Okay, like a goose and a pheasant and all that too. Yeah, I've never done that.
No, I'm glad you've never done that. Anyway, let's get on with the show. Thank you to all our partners who provide discount codes for our ACE patrons. We have Precision Fuel and Hydration, Tiki Boo, Mountain Fuel, Outdoor Active, Veloforte, Silver, Active Route, the Centurion Running Store, Protein Rebel, Sportshoes.com, Big Bobble Hats, X-Mars, Fawn Sand Farm Cottages, Yugo Goo Projects, Red Bear Sports, Summit Crazy, and Ultra Trail. If you'd like to save some money, perhaps not thinking about that right now, so you gloss over this bit, but never mind, you're listening. That's a thumbs up. Support the podcast and our partners, and please consider joining Patreon. Couldn't do this without you guys. Maybe even, if that last minute Christmas present, squeaky bum time if it is, pop over to Summit Crazy. Or maybe you've been given a little bit of money from great-grandma Taylor, slipped you a $5. Pop over to Summit Crazy if you'd like some. Start the new year with your fresh revolutions with some Tea and Trails merch.
Got to say thank you actually to Protein Rebel, our first, what's that, Christmas card? Podcast Christmas card from the guys from the team over at Protein Rebel. Yeah.
Are you a Christmas card guy?
No.
Have you sent them? No.
I've sent you one.
What, Christmas card? Yeah. Oh, thanks.
That's okay. Episode 52. Yeah, it's not one coming back. Episode 52. This week we chat with Rich Price. Now, Lakeland 50 and Lakeland 100 runners might know Rich's story. Yeah, so stick around for that. What a guy. My goodness me. Also, we have Brew the Coaches, an anonymous Brew the Coaches mystery. Tales from the Trails. We pop over to Strava. Plus Eddie and I share our weekly deets. Thank
you to Precision Fuel and Hydration for sponsoring this week's show. So much knowledge over that. Precision Fuel and Hydration in their new towers. They've just moved into a supersonic new building. So if you haven't, we bang on about it every week, but go over there, especially like as your thoughts, turn into the new year, maybe new race plans, maybe some of you are dipping your toe into ultra running, marathon training, even just like maybe challenging yourself to your local park run. There's something for everybody over there. I was reading their email this week about how to continue training over Christmas and the pitfalls of having too much mince pies, blah, 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 but they may spun it all into a positive. So you also, if you sign up, you get a weekly email, which is always really interesting. And I like that because it links to all their new stuff. So if you've got like a spare 5 minutes, you're waiting for the kids or whatever, you can just click, don't scroll through Instagram, click on that and learn something. Super stoked to have them as a sponsor. And even if they weren't a sponsor, we thoroughly recommend you jumping on a call with their sports scientists. And we're going to chat with Emily in the new year, who Gary and I both talked through our fueling plans for this year's races. So we will pop that onto Facebook when we do. Remember, patrons get 15% off, and anyone can get 15% off their first order with the code T24. Super simple, T24. Do it.
I think it's a good time to jump on a call, actually. They always say don't try anything new on race day. So yeah, if you're training for a marathon, the spring marathon or even a spring ultra, it probably is a good time to have a chat with Emily and just get that nutrition dialed in. Yeah, you can find all the links for our sponsors and partners over at teaandtrails.com or in the show notes. What have you been up to, Eddie? How's your week been, actually? Very interested. Super curious.
Are you?
Well, you were hitting me with some sensational images and then some food spam too. I love a picture of some food out on the trails.
Does anyone else notice that Gary, when he's not sure how to fill a question, he goes, super curious.
Don't
curious.
Highlight a weakness. That's going to.
So now I pointed out to it. So every time he says it in the interview, I corpse on the other bit of the camper. Hey, I'm super curious.
We should do super curious bingo. So if you do, oh my goodness, super curious. And every time you do it, you have to take a drink.
You do less, oh my goodness, now, I think, but there's just still the super curious comes out. I'm sure there's something I say a lot that annoys people. Yeah, it doesn't annoy me. I love it. It's endearing. Anyway, oh gosh, yeah, I got through the week, Gary. I know we recorded and I sounded reasonably upbeat, but it was all lies.
No.
But when you just want the time to pass because everybody's doing something that you really want to do and you're not, it's like not being invited to a party.
Yes, I didn't realise from that point of view, because say if I didn't start a road marathon or something, then yeah, it's past, it's gone. But your event was still ongoing, so different.
It was ongoing for a week. So anyway, I really enjoyed tracking it, and I loved, especially the people at the back of the pack, watching, because some of them come in. Gosh, they had to work hard for that. Super kudos if you ran the Winter 200, and if you didn't, it didn't quite go your way, or you didn't make the start line. Entries are open already. Well, you have to pre-enter. Okay. Yeah, you have to, put an interest in, because you have to have a reasonable level of competency to be in order to enter. So I reckon that will sell out super quick. So,
I wonder what the, Lakeland 100 stats, it's quite a high DNF. You're going to be pretty, you tore the line for a 200 miler and you're actually on the start line. I wonder what the DNF rate is for a 200 miler once you started the race. I got
through the week. I didn't feel very special about myself or anything in life, but we ticked it on. You just have to sit with that, don't you? When you've been really disappointed or any feeling. Sometimes if I've made a mistake in something or you said something you shouldn't have, that it will pass. Like, oh, you're really stupid, or oh, I shouldn't have said that, or I wish I'd not done that. But I wish I was running around in the mud, and I'm not, but I just had to sit with it. Can't fight it. Just had to get on, deep breaths, get on and do it. The slight temptation to, and I know people will really relate to this, to punish yourself for not doing it. Punish is a funny word to use, but I was like, right, well, I'm going to bike. I'm going to do planks till I cry. I'm going to Swift until there's blood coming out from my eyeballs. But I sort of again had to be like, no, that didn't last long, to be honest. No, I can't. I'm not just going to plow back in, because I've done that after every single South Downs Way 100, after the Top Direct, plow back into training. So I've written my plan already for my next event, but I'm not starting it until January. So I'm not allowed to do anything structured, anything really with fitness purpose to gain fitness. It's all got to be fun. Okay. It's all going to be fun, relaxed, nothing over an hour, apart from skiing. You can ski all day.
Yeah, but you have got to be ready. You've got to be ready to go back to the well. So I think that's super important. You give yourself a bit of time.
And everything was niggling. Everything was hurting. And I've done a few jogs and it's still not quite right. It's not bad, but it's not perfect. So we just don't want to get to January and still be tired and still be niggly. I want to get to January a couple of pounds heavier, a few mince pies on my butt cheeks, and feel refreshed. So so that took me about a week to get to, and I know lots of people in the same boat. You have to let go of your fitness, to let go of that training plan is really hard, but really, really super important. If you want to rebuild again, you've got to let it, like the snowman, just let it melt and then you will rebuild. So I kind of reached that. I heard a really interesting thing. Watched the Strictly final. Oh, it was long, Gary.
Who won?
Very long. Oh, by the time it gets to the end,
Momentous.
I've lost the will. I'm like, oh my gosh, just finish it. The girl, I can't remember her name. The kids were just obsessed that she was going to kiss her partner, and she didn't. Anyway, yeah, it was good. It was good. But the couple that didn't win, she said something really interesting, and she said, I didn't need the glitter ball. That's what you win, Gary, when you win Strictly.
Okay.
Instead, I focus on the light and the sparkles that I already have in my journey. And I thought, oh, that's a really lovely way to put it. So I've been trying to realign myself onto been focusing on that, like the end goal, which I didn't get to do, but everything else, life had many lights and many sparkles. And
I heard something similar to that. It was basically the person who enjoys the journey will go further than
you and I both super enjoy the journey, probably more than the destination itself. So focusing on that, got our Christmas tree, Gary. That is always the highlight of
real or fake.
We got a real one. Trying to see. It was around.
Oh, it's splendid. Look at
it's a splendid tree. I feel where we live, we have to have a real tree. The smell of it and the bushiness. I love a bushy tree, Gary. I really do.
But do you? Would your dogs see? We've had a real tree in the past, and there's no needles left because Rex destroys it.
No, they're not interested. They're too scared of it. I think they just think it's part of outside. You and I started working on a new idea, which we're going to share next year. Yeah. No words, but it's exciting. It's a new venture. Made a few. I'll tell you what, I hate it when people do that. My mum used to go, tell you later. But I've started doing a thing there. I skied my butt cheeks off, Gary, because I tentatively went up with Bryn. And I was like, wasn't sure how the knee was going to take to skiing. But the first run, I was like, ooh. First run's always a bit emotional. First piste when you haven't skied for like 5 months.
Bryn's like the milk tray man, though, isn't he? He can ski. He's a really good skier.
Can Bryn ski? He's like the demon. So I love skiing with him because he's so good. Wherever we end up, if it's a bit sketchy, I'll just tuck in behind him and just not look at anything, but just draft him behind him. But that doesn't happen very much because I'm actually better, I think. But yeah, I'm such a pro now. We popped our skis on and off we did. We did 10 piece, 10 runs, and we're done. My legs were killing. But I said to Bryn, I was like, we ski hard because we know everything so well. We can ski pretty much the whole resort in about 2 hours. Whereas if you don't know where you're going, it's a bit like, if you're trying to find a route when you're running. But we did 10 runs and I was like, let's go find. And I'm so well known in this little bowl where I normally do all my training. They have a little box of PG tips in the little cafe you can go to, and she keeps that on a shelf. And I go in, and she was like, "L'anglais, here's your tea bag." She gives me.
I just love that. I love that community. I love stuff like that.
Love it. So yeah, now I've skied. I've tried to ski most day as my activity, and it's quiet and the snow's great. We've had blue skies, and I've just been feeling my I wouldn't have done that if I'd done the race. Of nowhere I would still be on the sofa. So I'm like, that's just, I love skiing. You guys know I love to ski.
Those pictures you shared, oh my goodness me, they were so sensational.
Beautiful, sensational. Yeah. We are so lucky. So, and then I ski, and the kids, the older two don't really go to school in the winter. They just ski, and I just ski past them. And I'm like, you guys are so lucky. You're just there. You don't have to go to school. You're just standing on a piece chatting with your mates. Anyway, little girl Evie, she had her Christmas show. Now, an interesting story was held at this Christmas show. I thought I would share with you. And they did the story of Morzine, and the men all dressed up as old Haute Savoie mountain farmers, and the girls all dressed up as cows. But the cows were kind of in they were kind of like bikinis in cow skin. And then they all had numbers on, and then you had to choose your favorite cow. They were auctioned off. Awesome. It was hilarious, but it was also, Bryn and I were slightly sitting there going, I'm not sure this would happen in the UK. So we voted for cow number 7, Rosalind, and we wait to hear if she's the prize cow.
Yeah. So what happens though if
We
you
don't
to the
know.
winning cow?
She's going in today. She said, I don't know if I'm going to be the prize cow.
Oh, fingers crossed.
Anyway, so it is a funny old week, but it's done. And last week, I know we did the show and I sort of like pulled myself together. But this week, I truly do feel back on a level playing field. What's done is done. And it's time to rest up for a few weeks and then begin to rebuild. I did but I did have a good week, not like trading wise, but I did 3 strength sessions. I did a Pilates class. I did 3 very short half-an-hour runs. Strava, Swifted 5 times, plus lots of skiing. So
yeah, your Strava transformed last week.
I kind of will keep that. I'll keep that vibe going for the next couple of weeks until January. And then I know I'm going to be super unfit on the running, but that's okay. That's good. It's got to happen. I've got to. I feel like this year I haven't stopped. I haven't had, if ever I've had a break, it's been enforced because I've been busy with the kids or we've been traveling or something. And I do feel a little bit done. I feel a little bit empty and I think I always know if I'm a bit done is when I don't really feel like running.
Yeah. It's good if you can be aware of that and not overforce it. That's good.
Talking of overforcing, what have you been doing?
Well, I do enjoy this time. You know, I'm in this kind of pre-training plan. And so, yeah, if I do a workout, I do it. It's great. If I don't, I'm not really lost too much. I'm not that invested in it. But again, I think it's been the theme of, it could be the past 6 weeks, but I've backloaded my weeks. Monday, Tuesday seem to be a complete write-off for me. And then I just end up snowballing everything into that probably final 4 days. And yeah, there's a consequence to that because sometimes I miss a strength session because I don't want to take that fatigue onto a long run or something. So yeah, but basically I did my I say I'm moaning about it, but on paper.
We all know this, Gary, because you do this every week. So we will just go with you. Yep.
I love having the strides because I've never really had a training plan. I know I just download them offline, but I've never really had a training plan that puts strides into that plan. It's just something I should mindful I should do. But this pre-marathon plan, there's always strides every week. So I do enjoy that. So yeah, I did my strides. 8 times by 3 minutes on the treadmill. And I started watching at least the Caitlyn Jenner story on Netflix. Well, you're pulling your face here because I wasn't a fan of Caitlyn when Caitlyn was on I'm a Celebrity, but I just went with it. And my goodness me, a good story is a good story. So yeah, I would recommend it.
Okay, we're just dipping into the Arnie Netflix on your recommendation.
You liking it?
Yeah, I do like it. I mean, he is bizarre, but he's also enormous. But I didn't really know his story, so it's interesting. Yeah. How do you watch that when you're running 8 by 3 minutes? Because I wouldn't be able to watch anything because I wouldn't be able to hear anything over the sound of my heavy breathing.
Well, I'm probably listening more than watching, to be honest. But what was really funny, the guy next to me on the treadmill, for some reason, his treadmill was picking up my heart rate strap. He's cocking up his workout big time. But yeah, I felt strong on that workshop. I have this, I somehow get roughly 2,000 workout. I'm obsessed with my workshop.
Well, no, that's because you're an elf. We all know that. We don't need to pretend.
Christmas
so you just Christmas elf is busy down
I felt strong with that workout. But I was pooped and I was supposed to do that workout, then do my strength session down the gym. I walked over to the big rack to do my lunges and everything. I just couldn't do it. I just turned around and walked home. I was absolutely pooped. And then I was pooped doing my long run on Sunday too, because this is the consequence of doing everything Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You just don't get any time to recover. But I did my long run on Sunday. That was fine. Crazy wind. And I had a precision fuel and hydration fail. So basically I do that thing. I think Rena McGregor mentioned it where she said she decants gels into a soft flask and she waters them down. And that's what I did with my precision fuel and hydration. And when I went to take the first drink, I basically pulled the bite valve off the soft flask and just got watered down precision fuel and hydration all down my chest.
I'd have had to go home. I cannot stand sticky messes.
Well, I just, I juked it out. But the problem was that was maybe 15, 20 minutes into that run, which is about 2.5 hours long. So I was severely underfueled and underhydrated the last half an hour. Yeah, for what was just in effect heart rate wise, just an easy run. So there was much effort, but yeah, I struggled that last half an hour or so. I'm still off the sugary treats, which is going really well, actually. I keep getting tempted. We had 2 gingerbread houses in the house for Christmas.
I
Both
do
kids made-
say your house is the rest of your family. Oh, they love their sugary treats.
Yeah, big time. Oh, Esme's got such a sweet tooth. And Lisa was quizzing me actually, what are my plans for Christmas? And I think I'm just going to roll with the punches. I probably will have stuff on Christmas Day, but I'm pretty focused. I'm pretty strong with it. My willpower is strong.
How
This sugary
boring.
treat.
Please don't come round to mine for Christmas cake and mince pies.
I know I'll crack. I know I'll crumble. Well, I've ordered the Christmas hamper from our local butchers. So there's lots of apple crumble, Christmas crumble and stuff like that. Black Forest Gatto, lots of treats in that box. So yeah, we will see. The big news is, you'll have to pop over to YouTube for this. I shaved the head off. I look like Lex Luthor off Superman.
Ooh, as we say here, delusion de grandeur, eh? I think.
What I found, I was spending way too much time thinking about my hair. It was really...
I do the same, Gary. Hours on my hair.
So I just thought, let's shave it off. And since I've shaved it off, I've not thought about it again. So awesome. I've got some mental capacity back.
Did you do that? Yes. Did you do that yourself?
Oh, yeah. I've got clippers. Lisa bought me some clippers. Well, Lisa bought me some clippers.
Where do you do that? Where?
Just in the bathroom.
Oh, what do you do with all the hair?
Put it in the bin. What's wrong with put it in the bin then I hoover it up?
I bet there's still there's hair everywhere. I don't like hair. It makes me feel a bit the hairdressers when they're like brooming it up. I go to the hairdresser, that people's hair on the floor.
I can't remember the last time I went to physically paid for a haircut. I had big, because I chose not to do Tour de Helvellyn. I just thought, no, don't do any races this time of year. You know, leave the cup nice and empty for when you do want to start training. But oh my goodness me, those fells look sensational. And hopefully, a lot of people who might have toured the line last year didn't get to do the full course because the weather was so dreadful. Fingers crossed, yeah. If anybody missed out last year and they were touring the line again this year, they did get to do the full course. Yeah, very, very jealous. It looks sensational. All in all, with walking 77 miles, just under 15 hours of exercise, and including the 2,000 feet that I get on the treadmill, 6,000 feet of elevation. So yeah, I do moan about it, but the figures don't look too bad at the end of the week. But the biggest news of the week, I received a lovely email last night from the National Running Show. And yeah, big thank you to everybody who nominated us. But we have made the shortlist for the podcast content creators. There was a kind of a large umbrella of people doing similar stuff to what we do. But yeah, totally blown away and humbled too. We'll share the deets. I think literally you'll be able to vote before this podcast comes out, and I think it probably lasts for a few weeks. So we'll share the deets. Thanks for all the nominations. To win this award is going to be...
Oh, here he goes. This is like the Strictly montage when they go, to win, I mean, I started this podcast as a girl and I've become a woman. Oh my God.
Well, I do have to say, to win this award is going to be a big ask. We see the charts every week, and there are some big hitters. You've got I don't even know if these people
Don't tell people, because they'll be like, oh, I could listen to that podcast. It's much more professional. And they actually talk about running.
Well, we are literally there is Trish, Russell, Rebecca, and then us two who put this podcast together. We don't have somebody doing scripts. We don't have editors. We don't have somebody trying to do our...
Can you tell? It's amazing. It is incredible that this just happens in our sitting room.
Yeah, it does. There's nobody doing our social media, booking the sponsors. No.
Hang on. There is, you make this sound. I think the thing is we make it look easy, Gary. We make it look like we don't do much preparation. I want to say we, but I can't. You work your behind off.
It is a complete
yeah. But you work, we have to work really hard to get sponsors, to get Patreons, to get the guests on the show. I mean, guys, it takes time, but we love it. But so we're super excited that we're in the shortlist. We have no aspirations apart from a bit like Rosalind the cow. We can just ask you to vote and see what happens.
But I think, we are punching well above our weight and resources.
Oh, I don't think we are. I did think we deserve to be up there, Gary. We're hilarious.
But I'm going to ask, it's a call to action. We've got over 5,000 people over on our Facebook. We get thousands and thousands and thousands of people listening to this podcast every week. If every one of you voted.
But I also know it's so annoying when people go forward. I know. Can you share this? Can you click on this? And it's a really busy time of the year. So we will just vote for ourselves. Many. I forwarded it to my family WhatsApp, but they were more interested in the fact that my little sister had gone into a supermarket and the loo rolls had caught fire, and she'd had to evacuate. I was like, guys,
how does that even happen? How does that
I know. And then I was like, so how has this happened? And then the group's gone silent. Did she even get out? All we did get was a picture of the loo rolls on fire. But I did like the way she took a picture of the loo rolls on fire to send to the family WhatsApp before she left with her newborn baby and toddler in tow. Anyway, we digress. But we are so cool to get to the shortlist, and whatever happens, Gary will be there to accept the award. Well,
I wasn't going to go because of my wife's work shift. Literally, we talked about just was it last week? It's a year anniversary.
You know those big placards that you wear when you do the marathon pacing, and you have like 3. You can have one of those up about. Gary's here. Gary is here. Just walk around.
Gary from the podcast. Here we go. Brew with the coaches. Oh, mystery. Brew with the coaches this week.
I can't remember what this one is about, Gary, because all I know is that you were like, must not read their name, read their name.
Goodness me, yeah. I'll need to remember this when I do the edit because I've not edited this one yet. But it was about possibly changing coaches and they wanted to be anonymous.
Oh, I love a bit of
case their old coach is listening. So yeah, here is Brew the Coaches from Anonymous. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I've been running for just over 3 years now, and it has fundamentally changed my life, transforming me both mentally and physically. I've run a few marathons, PB of 3:23, a 50k in the lumpy South Downs, and I ran a backyard ultra-style event this year and clocked up 100 kilometers. Reaching 100k was a big turning point for my confidence in my ability. My dream race is the Spine. It's got a lot of emotional value to me, which I won't go into here, but as a Derbyshire lad who ended up in the flats of Essex, love brought me here. Oh, wow, yeah. What a move for love. Well, I spend a lot of time thinking about those trails. I'm 37 now and would like to run it before I'm 40. And next year, I'm signed up for the Summer Challenger. So far, so straightforward, right? Well, after that long ramble, here is my question. I've had a coach for just over a year now, and he's got me into great shape. I'm faster and fitter than ever before. Resting heart rate in the low 40s. VO2 max is 62. Easy pace for heart rate is just under 8 minutes miles. But he's a track athlete coach who focuses on shorter distances. Most of his clients are marathon and short focused. I know he's trained some people for marathon dressage before, but I've got this tiny voice in my head that keeps whispering that maybe a coach who was specialized in longer, more mountainous stuff might better prepare me. I feel dreadful because he's a brilliant coach. He's whipped me into shape and has become a good friend, hence why I'd like to be anonymous, but I'm not sure what to do. Compounding matters, I booked a one-off consultation with a more specialist coach a few weeks ago, and he said that my fitness and speed were great, but that it wasn't showing in my ultra race times. Can he get me to and through the Spine race, or would a specialist coach be a better option? Please help, coaches. P.S. I only provided all those numbers and stats as background and context, not to be some bloody show-off. I promise. Much love, Anonymous. Oh, wowzers. Who
you, Russell. You need to
go off. Was VO2 max, was it 62 or 63? That's very high.
VO2 max of 62, yeah. I wonder if he's had a like if that's a Garmin based VO2 max, because they aren't.
Ooh, what are you saying, Gary?
I know, I'm just putting it out there. I don't know.
I love this question because it reminds me a lot of me. So I was a track road runner, and 10 years ago I moved to Snowdonia, Harare, where there's a fell running scene, and I didn't have a coach. I still tried to persist with my coach from London, and it very quickly transpired that it wasn't working out very well for so many reasons. And I had to learn the hard way. 10 years ago, 11 years ago, there wasn't much of a scene, certainly in ultra running, the way it's booming now. And I didn't know who to go to. So I was like reading books and trying to find stuff out for myself. I had to have an honest chat with my coach, and he was really okay about me having to figure stuff out for myself. That it's like, for instance, he would set me 10 miles at 6-minute miling, which is something that you can do in the parks around London, no problem. But in Harare, it's like flat out, but almost impossible. So there were like quite clear differences. And obviously you haven't moved, but it was just to illustrate the disparity, the differences. I was trying to run 100 miles a week because that was what I did in London on the flat. Move into the mountains, I gave myself anemia. I had an iron deficiency. I wasn't fueling. I didn't understand fueling because it was not a problem for me as a road track runner. Whereas if you had a coach, they're going to help you with that. The kit that you need is obviously very different. If you get caught up in the mountains, which I did, and you're in vests and shorts, which work out great, then all of a sudden you're exposed and you're freezing when the weather comes in, and it can be really dangerous. There's just so many reasons why I think it's a good idea to look for someone who knows what they're talking about, just to save yourself the amount of time that it took me to figure stuff out for myself. I was reading a book, and Kenny Stewart just happened to mention that he was bad at descending. So what he did was he would go up to a hill that was hard to descend off, walk up it and sprint down it, and walk up it and sprint down it. And I had to find this in a book. I think it was actually in Feet in the Clouds. But I was just reading all these books, just trying to get sessions, because I didn't know what to do. And you can just save all that time by getting a really good coach, someone who's probably been there and done it and has had that experience. First of all, it's great that you've got a high VO2 max and a low resting heart rate, and you'll have a fast cruising pace. But now, how do you convert that? That's what you're really looking at. There is a conversion process, and it can be quite smooth and fun, or it can be a nightmare where you get injured, or you get anemia, or you get exposure. And you waste loads of time that you didn't need to because you just haven't got the info from your coach. If he's a good coach and he's your friend, I think he'll be honest about his limitations. It's a very different discipline. It's a very different sport. Another thing that I learned the hard way is you cannot perform at your best at both simultaneously. And it's a hard lesson to learn, but if you want to be the best mountain ultra runner you can be, you are not at the same time going to be the best road runner, track runner you can be. You have to have a conversion process, and you can go back and you can get the benefits of both. Certainly the best ultra runners are doing VO2 max work, they're doing intervals, they're doing faster stuff, so that puts you in a great position to convert well. Whereas some bell runners and old school ultra runners, they don't do enough of that, in my opinion. So they're always holding themselves back. They're never going to reach their potential. So it's a positive thing. Someone like Eddie, who's done the spline, come second, is it Eddie? Yeah, they're going to know how to actually apply your skills to the specific, very peculiar demands to a very different sport. So that would be my advice, is probably, yes, have an open chat with your coach. And if he's your friend, like he says, he'll understand his own limitations. He doesn't know what he doesn't know.
Mic drop.
Krish, I would say it's certainly helpful to have to be coached by someone who's done what you're trying to do from a specificity point of view, just in terms of the kit, understanding the course and the requirements. I think that one of the key differences from track to trail is a lot of track coaches will focus, like Russell said, on minute miles in terms of their training, whereas I think a lot of trail coaches predominantly tend to focus, and not all the time. I mean, for example, I coach both, and I'll probably use bits from both, but mostly for these kind of races, I'll be looking at time and elevation. So time out and elevation. The thing that's going to get you through the spine isn't your coach, it's you. Okay. The big thing with this kind of big running is your mental capacity to endure. Okay. And I can see, from your stats straight away, your stats say you're fit enough to do the spine. It's just whether mentally you're going to be able to endure that, and physically, whether you're going to be able to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And a lot of that is understanding pace work with long distance trail running, understanding pace work, what level you should be running at. And I think that's sometimes lost with track coaches, because again, there is that transfer of skills is slightly different. I would say, like Russell, you just need to talk to your coach. If you have done stuff before, and in terms of long distance running, and generally what the spine requires, I think you could get through it with your coach for sure. We don't know the ins and outs of your coach. Your coach might already understand those limitations and be working on it and be willing to consult with other people as well. I would say you don't necessarily need a specific coach who's, for example, done the spine, but it will definitely help. A good coach, though, would always be okay with that. For example, I've had people, in fact, actually not so long ago, I had someone ask me about the paddy, and I actually recommended you, Russell. There you go.
I told her, piss off, I'm not interested in just second-handers. So.
Don't need your cast offs. So a coach should always be focused on what's best for their client. I think that's going to change as your client progresses as well, and that's okay. And that's a normal part, I think, of your progression as a coached athlete, and as a coach as well. Being able to step back and say, I'm not what you need right now, you need this. Have a chat with your coach. But fundamentally, I would say, remember this: a coach will not get you through the spine. You will get yourself through the spine. It's all about your headspace. You've got to be fit, but it's about your headspace.
I'll tell you an interesting story, anonymous caller, as well.
Yeah.
I have had many years of coaching experience, and so have Trish and Russell. And I'm sure we've had people come and go, come back, come and go. The flow of clients is very normal. As a coach, that's what you would expect, that people's lives change, circumstances change, race goals change. And you want to see your athletes fly. You want to see them flourish. That is your aim as a coach. You want to see them improve. And that by letting them improve, you also might lose them. I coached Imogen Simmons when she first started out as a triathlete. She's now 70.3 multiple champion. She was runner-up at the World Championship. She is now one of the top Ironman and half Ironman athletes. And I set her on that journey as a coach, but she quickly progressed. I could see she was incredible. And she went on and to a different triathlon training group. Of course, I didn't have the tools. I wasn't able to provide an elite athlete with the day-to-day coaching that she needed. And so she went, and that went with love. And I think if you have that relationship with your coach as well, they will understand that. But I would have a really truthful conversation with your coach. I'm sure it sounds like your relationship is brilliant. And just say, I want to do this. Do you think you have the time that it takes to understand what is needed to do the research into this result? Do you want to do it together, or shall I go and look? Because if you have a great relationship with him and he's a great coach, he's got you into this great shape, he might be like, I really want to get into this. I want to take you there. I want to do it together. And that might be a wonderful thing to do together. And you both would have to do quite a lot of reading, podcast listening, kit research, but it's all out there. So it's not something that you actually do need somebody. If you've got the time and he's got the time, you're willing to do it together. So don't just think, oh no, just because he's not had it. We all have to learn somewhere. We all have to learn. But I would say, from someone that has done the spine, I went to Jason Cavill because I knew that he'd coached many people to do it. He'd been on the course. He knew the course. He knew all about, and the biggest things I got from him actually wasn't the physical training. We can all get, you're great. You're in 3:23 marathon shape. You're there. It wasn't. It was all the little bits, the kit, the standing outside trying to get my jet boil to light, with him saying, this is what you've got to be able to do this at 12 o'clock at night, having done a long run. You're not to go inside until you've cooked your boil in the bag meal. I would never have done that myself if someone hadn't told me that you need to know actually how to use this kit. So it's the little things for those races for a race like that. But perhaps, yeah, like Trish said, you need to look into somebody that really that's what you know. Can you boil snow in your jet boil? Can you all the terrible things you have to do that? But it sounds like you like had a consultation call with someone. So also perhaps you don't need to move away from your coach. You can perhaps just find somebody that's done the spine and say, look, can I book a call? I've got these questions. And I get requests like that quite a lot. I'm sure the others do as well. If you're looking at doing like Russell knows the round, the Paddy Buckley round, for instance, I'm sure he gets people going, can I just pick your brains about like the line of this, the line of that? So it's all learning. It's learning for you and it's learning for your coach as well. But the fact that you're thinking about it and thinking about your journey ahead and in the next 3 years is brilliant. I think you're totally on the right path. And the spine will be the best and the worst time of your life.
I'll just say one more thing on that as well, actually. I don't know if any of you have watched Naiad recently. It's brilliant.
Oh, I've started it. It looks good.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But just in terms of, just reminded me there in terms of coaching. So she's coached by her best friend,
Jodie Foster,
who isn't a swim coach. Yeah, she's not a swim coach. So it's if someone is invested in you, then they will go and do what they need to do in order to help you succeed. So if your coach is Jodie Foster, ripped, and it's totally got your back, that's worth its weight in gold. So having someone.
You hear those Sam Laidlow, who go back to triathlon again. He won the World Ironman Championships, and he's coached by his dad. He's been coached by his dad was on this podcast talking about all this wonderful strain power up. He makes him swim with stones in his hands to like increase his strength. Like his dad has just basically taken this child from and learned what works for him, and then they followed this journey together. So I think you're in a really exciting place. Like, I don't think there's anything negative to be drawn from this. I think like you might carry on with this coach, or you might just go, right, this is the way I'm going, but let's keep this relationship going. Perhaps like there's many different facets, but all we know is that you look like you're on the right path, Anonymous. You're thinking of your journey to get there. You've got love.
Good luck, Anonymous. Hope it goes well.
You got this.
Best of luck. What do you reckon? It's been a few weeks since we recorded that. Have they stuck with their coach or moved on?
Imagine. Well, I haven't had any clients leave me, so.
Yeah, super interesting. And I think, if you are a coach.
Is this going on the podcast?
Yeah, but if you're a coach and you just feel your time is up with an athlete, then you probably just wave them on with your blessing, I suppose.
Oh, absolutely. Because sometimes people want a fresh pair of eyes. Sometimes people just want a fresh start if they've got a lot of history. Some people want specialism for a race. Some people want to change distance. It's always good. It's a journey. And so if you're a coach, that's part of being a coach and letting your athletes fly, letting them go with grace. And that's just part of the job. Sometimes it's not a very nice part of the job if people leave you, but ebbs and flows, but it's just like running, highs and lows.
This week we have a chat with Rich Price. And yeah, like I mentioned in the intro, if you're familiar with the Lakeland 50 and the Lakeland 100 the past few years, you will have heard Rich Price's name mentioned quite a few times. And yeah, hopefully we're going to be on the start line of the 2024 Lakeland 100 next year. So best of luck, Rich. Yeah, I hope you enjoy our chat with Rich Price. Thanks for coming on the Tea and Trails podcast, Rich. If you've been around the Lakeland 100 or the Lakeland 50 community for the past few years, you will have heard Rich's name. Powerful, emotional, inspirational, and ultimately it's a happy story. Yeah, it's such a privilege to share the mic with you today, Rich. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having me, yeah.
We ask everybody, Eddie laughs at me the way I deliver this question. We ask everybody on the THS podcast.
That I have for you.
Okay, where are you? What's the view from your window? And have you been for a run today?
Yes, I'm at home at the minute. View from the window, actually, it's quite clear at the minute for North Wales. It's been heavy rain for God knows how long. But yeah, just looking out onto the garden at the moment. Nothing overly exciting other than a recent pergola that I built. And run-wise, no, I'm out this evening. So I've got what have I got this evening? Yeah, just a standard session, 45-minute session tonight. So.
And are you straight on the trails or is it a bit tarmac? I'm just trying to get some geography. Whereabouts in Wales?
Yeah, so I live right near the coast, so it's dead flat, believe it or not like the coast that you normally run on the trails. It is literally just dead flat. So the wind blows into the coast. But I live only about 2 or 3 miles from the start of the Offa's Dyke. So when I'm on the trails, I'm over there. But for standard runs, this time of year, I'm out on the trails probably twice a week. And then the rest of it is pretty much on the roads, unfortunately.
Have you done that race?
Yeah, I was just going to ask this. Offa's Dyke on your radar? I did
a race earlier in the year, actually. It was called 24 Hours South. I didn't quite last 24 hours, to be honest with you. I suffered with really bad nausea and vomiting after about 24 miles. I was running with my sister-in-law. And the idea is you just get as far as you possibly can within the 24-hour period. And I got to, I think, well, I did actually, because that actually became my first 50. But then that was it. Then I was done. Every single step was an absolute nightmare.
Oh yeah, I hate.
There's quite a few. It's a great training ground, actually. It's just so much mixed terrain, and it's almost coastal in its effect because it's really sort of sharp ups, sharp downs, but it takes in more Bamai, more Arthur, that sort of thing. So yeah, good training ground. And
I'm right, you are moving house though, so you're going to be exposed to some much more aggressive trails, if your memory's right.
Yeah, so last week, really busy week, last couple of weeks actually. So we've just had an offer accepted on a house in the middle of nowhere. Right up our street, to be honest, but quite daunting in the sense. And yeah, it is literally in the middle of nowhere. So whichever way we go, it's in a little valley right by the side of a little river. Whichever way we go, we've got up. So no excuses for not getting some hills in the legs now.
Oh, that's like just like where I live, Rich, and it is amazing. But it's also you're like, oh, can I just long? You'll be like, I long for my lovely coastal flat path again for this recovery run. But you probably do a lot more hiking, which is also really good as well. Underrated recovery tool as well.
That's how John and I got together. Really was through the sort of hiking and. So yeah, intend to do a lot more of that. Get the dog out, get the dog some exercise at the same time as well.
What sort of dog have you got?
Oh, she's a little Patterdale, but she's not like a Patterdale at all. Totally out of character of Patterdale. Yeah, more of a definite lap dog. Just loves to sleep. Frowns heavily when we try and get her out onto the trails unless there's a dog around. So.
I was going to say, did she run with you or not?
No, she's a very much a protest dog. So if she got something in front of her, then she'll run after it. But no, she certainly doesn't follow in the same line as us. No.
What's that breed of dog for? Is it for like ferreting or rabbiting or something? Are they like digging dogs?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're hunting dogs by breed, aren't they? But you just can't. She's so unlike her. She's a rescue dog. She spent the first 12 months of her life in a barn. Not seeing the light of day. So we took her in. Yeah, she's just become, and I mean this quite literally, part of the furniture. She hardly moves, to be honest. So totally out of character.
When you're tapering, I could do with a dog like that because my dogs are covering about 100 miles a week and now they've had about 4 and they're like, we don't know what to do with ourselves. We've got all this pedigree chum coursing through our veins.
Yeah, my brother-in-law's got my brother and sister-in-law, they've got a Hungarian Vizsla. And, so yeah, that's just legging it around everywhere, and yeah, our little Bessie, she gets small dog syndrome. She all of a sudden she becomes, a Vizsla in her mind and starts chasing
little
after
Napoleon.
Can't compete, unfortunately.
I love it. My dog Rex, he's so full of anxiety. When I see him just curled up, chilled out, it's like, yeah, finally, he's pretty relaxed.
You and Rex are so similar, Gaza.
I'm not detecting, apologies if I've got this wrong, actually, but yeah, I'm not detecting a Welsh accent. Black Country, is that correct?
It is, yeah. How did you know Black Country and not Birmingham?
Oh, well, I just said Black Country. I didn't really know specifically.
Yeah, so, I've spent the majority of my life growing up in the Black Country, just by fate, I suppose, whichever way you would call it. I came up to Wales, when was it now? Probably about 6.5 years ago, something like that. By default, bought a caravan up here, thought it'd be a good time to sort of come up and spend a bit of time up here, and things didn't pan out particularly well. And then I've spent the whole time my sort of recovery up in North Wales, really sort of building a new life here.
Russell will be so excited. He'll be like, there's no better place to live and
Oh,
breathe.
absolutely.
Let's rewind a little bit then, Rich. It's up to you really how far you want to rewind, whether you want to tell us your life story from childhood. Does that relate to where you found yourself sort of 5-6 years ago? Or we could start your story 5-6 years ago. What do you think the listener, how much Rich Price story do you think the listener needs?
Yeah, so it depends who's listening, I suppose, doesn't it? At the end of the day, but actually, it will be on Sunday. I'll be 5 years sober this Sunday. So that obviously from the point of view of recording, it will be the 10th of December. So I spent the last 5 years up in North Wales, just working on my recovery and working on rebuilding my life. Prior to that, a long history of alcoholism. Which went really, really dramatically wrong from, to a certain extent, a successful life. All really started to change in about 2007, 2008. The drinking became a lot more excessive. I'd been a regular drinker, but it became a lot more excessive during that time and accelerated quite quickly.
Was there a trigger for that, do you think, or was it just sort of developed?
Very early on in my sobriety, I really tried to look at that why. At the end of the day, I suffer from alcoholism. I attend Alcoholics Anonymous, and there's a great description of alcoholism as an illness as opposed to just a drinking problem. I don't think anybody would ever be able to find a reason as to why. Was it hereditary? Was it because of a particular event? I very soon realised that I could either spend a long time trying to find a reason as to why things had gotten so bad or focus on building a better future. So I chose plan B. Never be able to find a reason as to why. Yeah, so more about moving forward, really.
Was that 2017, you said, when it sort of really got a grip on you? Tell us a little bit about the year or so after that.
Yeah, so prior to that, really. So 2018, I spent a good chunk of time in the hospital in North Wales. So I purchased a caravan with some inheritance up in North Wales. Never been to North Wales before that, and purchased a caravan. That's when things really started to go bad. Well, I detoxed in hospital 5 times during 2018. Came out of hospital each time and drank. And, a point where I didn't want to, my life had fallen apart way before then, and my marriage had broken down and relationship with kids had gone, businesses had gone, and I'd just been left with a pot of money and nearly drank myself to death. And the last time that I detoxed was on my admission to hospital on the 10th of December in 2018, and I was in there for sort of about 7 weeks. So it was real touch and go during that time. Yeah, it was at a point where it nearly ended my life, in the short of it. So pretty horrific, really. Yeah.
When the alcoholism was taking over and you had the caravan, was there a friendship support structure, or were you pretty isolated out there?
Yeah, they say there's a great saying actually, and they say that alcohol is a great remover, and fundamentally that's exactly what happened. Bit by bit, you start to lose everything. Exactly that word, Gary. I just became isolated from society, isolated from family. My only friend was alcohol. And that's all I turned to. Morning, noon, and night. I suppose really, it sort of creeps up on you. A lot of people, and I've supported a lot of people with substance misuse problems. It's very rare that something triggers overnight and then you become a full-blown alcoholic. It's a series of certain things that lead you to the point where, as it was prior to coming up to North Wales, I was drinking before I even opened my eyes every morning, but that built and built and built to the point when I was in the caravan and I was drinking 2 or 3 litres of vodka every day just to survive. And that's the crux of it. Short answer to the question, there wasn't anybody about, I think everybody had enough. Of Rich the drinker. Many people had said to me, and I didn't heed the warnings, that you're going to die a lonely old man, and I needed it. That's the reality of it.
What was the difference about when you got taken into was it your 5th time going into the hospital?
6th time, I think it was, yeah. 6th time.
What was different about that last time that it stuck?
Well, this is where the miracle is, and this is what I share quite often actually, is that I can't tell you. I came to in the hospital and my brother was standing there just, and he's a tough cookie mentally, he's a great athlete himself, and he was standing at the edge of the bed in tears, and there was a consultant just looking, just bewildered. I said to him, "Is it bad?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, what's the situation? He said, you've got sort of 24, 48 hours. The thought of not being around didn't bother me. I had nothing. I kind of, in a way, didn't really have much to live for. And I can't tell you why, but the compulsion to drink had gone. It's a strange situation that I'll never be able to explain fully. But I just came to the realisation, no, it wasn't even a realisation. I just didn't want to drink. I had no compulsion to drink. Thank God, to this day, has never come back.
Then what did that 7 weeks in hospital look like? Are you sort of a bit on hospital arrest or?
So I couldn't walk. I was literally bedbound. I had no control over my body functions for the first couple of weeks. Not long after I'd been admitted to hospital, I had esophageal bleeds, so I nearly bled to death. I had 8 units of blood transfused. So it was just a long process of rehabilitation, really. And it was a frightening experience because I had nowhere to go back to. The hospital were amazing. They were doing their best to try and find somewhere for me to go and live. But effectively, I was homeless. I couldn't go back to the caravan. The caravan was a write-off, just from living the life of a chronic alcoholic, really. So that 7 weeks, I learned to walk. I had some physiotherapy. So much muscle wastage that when I lifted my leg up, everything just dropped. There was no muscle there in the legs at all. So I had to literally learn to walk again, function, eat. I couldn't eat. I couldn't hold any food down. Yeah, it was a very slow process, but these guys were amazing. But it comes to a point where I was only in hospital because I had nowhere else to live. So obviously that's when I was kicked out and said that's it now and registered as homeless.
So what happens then? Yeah, you kicked out of hospital and then you're homeless. What is a day for Rich like at that point?
Well, it's quite strange actually, because when you sort of they call it sort of pink cloud syndromes. I was just glad to be sober, to be honest. It was really daunting. It was -2. I had no clothing other than what they'd given me in the hospital, and I'm standing outside of the local council offices in a town in North Wales that I'd never heard of, and not knowing what the hell I was going to do, and really faced with. I remember going into the office, and the guy said to me that it was 20 to 5 on a Friday afternoon. They paid for a taxi, and the guy said to me, that door shuts in 20 minutes. The security guy said, it shuts in 20 minutes. If you don't find somewhere, if you're not sorted within that 20 minutes, I'm going to have to sort of kick you out. So I had an amazing housing officer that I'll never forget to this day, that was just so kind. And he said, I'm going to put you in a B&B in Carnarvon. I'd never heard of Carnarvon, but no idea where it was geographically. And that was it. And I went to this what was a hostel, effectively, I suppose, for want of a better phrase. And I got put in there with a tenner. And he said to me, you've got to keep £3.60 back. That £3.60 you've got to pay for your bus fare to get back here next week to sign some paperwork. And I learned so much from that week, because I managed to live off what effectively was let me do my maths, £6 odd.
Yeah.
To eat and to be okay. Yeah, it was very daunting, because I just didn't know where I was going to be from one day to the next, whether I was going to have a knock on the door, say, you've got to get out, you've got to leave now. But just grateful every day. And you open your door and looking out into the Menai Straits, and you've got Anglesey in the distance, and coming from the outskirts of Birmingham, it wasn't too bad, really. And I managed to learn how to cook breakfast in a microwave, keep my hygiene up to speed, and, from a little corner sink, and just made do. And I suppose that's why I'm so grateful for everything today, really.
It was probably blessing, because it was a very simple life, so you didn't have to handle a lot of you just had to do your base, learn to live again, basically. Just learn to, the sun rises, you get up, you feed, you wash, you potter about, probably a little bit of chores, more food, back to bed, and sort of just learn to be a normal person.
That's so important that you said that, because that's exactly what it was. And there was no real complications other than the complications that I made. And that's so true to this day. Life is complicated because we're so guilty sometimes of making it complicated. Whereas really, if we strip it back down to its bare essentials, I had those. I had a warm bedroom. I had enough food. They used to call me the yellow sticker man. I used to follow the yellow sticker guy around the local supermarket and wait for him to do his second reductions of the day, and buy lemon sole for 9p, and learning how to cook it.
I think Gary does the same, don't you, Gary?
Oh yeah, I used to know the times. Yeah, I used to go around doing the reductions.
A Battenberg cake down to 20p.
Yeah.
So and just learning the simplicities in life, and coming to understand what was really important. That I didn't any longer put money or any form of prestige at the forefront of what was important in my life, and it was getting through each day, finding out who I was. The first time in 40 odd years, who's rich, what are you about? What are you going to do about your situation? So important. Those days I refer to as still some of the happiest days of my recovery. I've got a great life now, but that period of time was so important to me, and the principles and the values that I've got today, I learned a lot through that time. Yeah.
You mentioned being grateful. Was that a constant overriding emotion, or was there moments of anger? Maybe you felt like a victim, or depression, or was that being grateful like the strongest emotion?
Again, it's another good question, because I was diagnosed PTSD, complex PTSD, depressive, but I was absolutely adamant to work on the stuff that I learned very early on, actually, through the principles of recovery, which is all about gratitude and being grateful for what you've got. Yeah, and of course, I'm somebody that suffers from alcoholism. I get narky. And that's still the case today. You human beings, it doesn't paint a picture of an angel, far from it,
Yeah.
But there was times when, you'd feel frightened, you'd get a little bit wound up or that sort of thing. But it was an overriding feeling of, thank God I'm just sober. Every day, thank God I'm sober. I'm not drinking. I'm not going to cause anybody any harm today, and I'm just going to get through and one step in front of the other, really. Yeah.
And is there a point, I suppose, rewind a little bit? I'm just trying to think, listeners who might be listening and worry about their own relationship with alcohol. Was there a point where you maybe could reflect back on when you thought, I need some help at this moment? And you didn't accept any help or take any help, but just for our listeners, maybe, was there a point?
They say that it's a point of desperation and you're rock bottom. But I think that I reached a real rock bottom many, many years prior to that. And they say that in every rock bottom, there's a trap door. There was a point I remember going to the GP and opening up about my drink problem. And, these guys aren't geared up really to sort of deal with it. They'll prescribe you some medication and a help group. I think when I became really concerned, it was when I really wanted to stop and I couldn't stop. And that was quite a few years before I actually sort of moved up to North Wales. And I would try to stop, and I would try to stop for a period of time, and I would get through 2 or 3 days, and then, one drink, and then that would be it. Then I'd be away again for another 2 or 3 months of just constant drinking every day. An occurrence would happen, and I'd put the drink down, and then I would soon be back to it again.
Would you say, Rich, that this sort of addiction, or any sort of addiction, it's almost impossible to break by yourself?
I don't think it's a matter of willpower. That's one thing that I came to realise. I have a strong will in a lot of areas.
Yeah, exactly, because you obviously do, but it's not the will that we recognise as runners and ultra runners, that willpower to keep going can sometimes be missed. This is a very different sort of power, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's almost the case of surrendering. That's what I did, was surrender to the problem and the realisation that I can't do this, and you're quite right. I couldn't do it on my own, and I still can't. And that's the reality of it. That's the realisation. My life today is great, and I'm surrounded by brilliant people in my home life, my private life, but I still go to 12-step meetings because I help people at 12-step meetings, but that's part and parcel of my recovery as well. We always say, always make sure you're in the middle of the lifeboat. Don't sit on the edge. Always surround yourself with good people.
Inner circle has got to be an absolute. You're the little bit in the middle of the sunflower, and your petals have got to be bright yellow. Let's move on the story a little bit to how you found running. When in this, I'm imagining you cooking your microwave breakfast pottering along, life's, sun's coming up a little bit, getting a little bit of rosiness back in your cheeks. When did you find running? When did it first appear in your radar? When did you think, this is what's going to help me on my next stage of recovery?
Lockdown boredom. As lockdown kicked in, really, and I was living on Anglesey. The terrain was really flat. We used to go for a walk regularly, and I noticed I was sort of gaining a few pounds, to say the least, and enjoying food again and all this sort of stuff. So it was probably about 8 or 9 months after I came into recovery. Maybe a little bit longer than that, whenever it was. And I just said to my partner at the time, do you know what, I'm going to head out, I'm going to go for a run. She thought I was absolutely crazy, but I did, and it nearly killed me. And I don't know how far did I get, probably just under half a mile. And the fatal thing of just sort of heading out and trying to just each time just run further, and absolutely no program at all, no logic behind what I was doing. And it was a usual thing, which is still the case today. One day I'd go out and I'd feel great. Next day I'd go out and the first 50, 60 yards was a killer.
Everything's good. the next day, and then suddenly the next day you're fine.
Yeah, and that's pretty much how it all got off the ground, really. And then I remember, casting my mind back, I just downloaded a program which was a gentle build over a couple of days, and then reverting back to where you were the previous 2 days, and building on that. And it was a 10K program. So yeah, worked through that until I could run 10K, which I did across the rail track for the first time. So that was a great feeling. Yeah, it all seems a distant memory now.
Why running? There's loads of things out there. Running's quite a lonely pursuit. I'm just curious, why running out of all the other sports you could do?
I think, yes. And again, and I think I've mentioned it before, I'm not a natural runner. And I find it incredibly challenging. I was a single handicap golfer, back in the day, played county cricket when I was a youngster as well, and very, very sporty. But out of everything, running is the thing that I find incredibly difficult. And I think it's just the challenge. Going back to that, half a mile, what was a half a mile was just as difficult today as a 2 or 3 hour session on the Offa's Dyke. So I think it's just that constant challenge. By nature, I love to be challenged. That's the only reason why. And I've got an incredibly competitive brother who's far better than me at running. So kind of living in his shadows, I suppose, really. But yeah,
get him in the cricket nets. Show him a thing or two.
Yeah,
I don't know about that either nowadays. To be honest with you, I'd be rusty with that as well. I had a stab at the cricket a few times, going back to it, but could never recover the ability.
And yeah, I suppose like Eddie said, then why the ultras? Why the trails?
It's just a different ball game, isn't it? Really, it's just something that's overtaken my life. Add so much to my recovery, and I think on one of the comments I said that I used to absolutely detest cross country when I was a kid. Oh God, the idea of running out on a field.
Yeah.
And then when I met Sean was training for the Lakeland 50. I'd heard of ultra running, and that's I'd look at the word and just think, no, that's enough. That's enough. Just the idea of it is enough to frighten anybody off. But yeah, she was training for the Lakeland 50.
Where did you meet her, Rich?
We actually met through a walking group and online.
So you washed up in your best Gore-Tex and went, Day ladies, we're walking.
It definitely wasn't Gore-Tex back then. It was probably a charity shop special for a few quid. Yeah, and she was training for this, and naturally we started to run out on the trails, and I think the first real trail run I did was 7.5 miles around one of the local lakes we've got here. The feeling that I got when I did that, and some of the other bits and pieces that we did in the early days, then I knew pretty much that it would take precedent over any kind of road running that I was doing at the time as well. Not that I did a lot, but yeah, it was a kind of a baptism of fire. Get to running your 10K and then straight on the trails, yeah.
Well, this is it. I'm looking at the timeline. So 2022, you watched your now wife, Sean, Lakeland 50, if that's correct. Then 2023, you're toeing the line for the Lakeland 50. In 2024, you're entered in the Lakeland 100. That's a steep bell curve, that, Richard. My goodness me. And you're right, the trails, there's something else, but then you sprinkle a little bit of Lakeland magic on that trail. And wow, that event, I just can't even put it into words, really. It's like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow as far as trail running is concerned for me. Again,
you just get hooked, don't you? When I watched Sean sort of coming in, and the atmosphere at the Lakeland, and I also think as well, that whilst I was there, it kind of in denial, but really deep down in my heart of hearts, I had my mind set on doing the 100. My brother-in-law's 5 times finisher, so he got the slate in 2022, and seeing him sort of come through the marquee, and then seeing Sean finish, I thought, I've got to have a bit of this. And I think at that time, we'd done I'd already done my first sort of ultra. I'd done a 50K by the time we got round to sort of the Lakeland and seeing and spectating. And then I didn't get in the ballot, so I had to get a charity place and raise a few quid to get in this year.
That's super tough. To get in the ballot for the 50.
How was that experience, having watched it and then getting to do it? How was that?
It's incredible, because I was actually nursing a bit of an injury when I went into it as well, so I hadn't trained that much for it in the previous sort of 3 to 4 weeks, and I'd use the word taper. I didn't have any sort of coach at the time, anybody to advise, but I just listened to my body because of certain things. Historically, I do carry a lot of injuries. I've always got a niggle. I remember somebody on the podcast saying that whenever you go out, there's a niggle somewhere, and that's me.
Yeah.
There's always something to nurse. But then going into it, it just felt incredible. And standing on the start line of the 50 and listening to the drums playing and AC/DC going, and, you just get so pumped up and from the off, and even now, listening to that, it just gets the air standing up on your arms and you just think, oh, here we go. But taking part in it, the atmosphere is good as spectating, but, actually taking part in it was just incredible. One of the best experiences I've ever had, to be honest with you.
Apologies if I'll get the timelines wrong, but you rebuilt the relationship with your son along this time. And then I think, correct, you ran the 50 with him last year.
Yeah, I built the relationship with one of my sons. So he was super supportive, through my recovery. Again, very, very sporty, similar sports, as he was growing up, but a great footballer as well. And then he started to do a little bit of running, came up to watch Sean do the 50. So we both entered the ballot. He got in. I didn't get in. I know. And he wasn't even running at the time either, but he put his name down for the ballot. And I genuinely didn't think...
Kid.
Makes you sick, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's like these people who went to London Marathon and they don't really want to do it, and then they're the ones that get in.
I just want to play some Western States. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know, yeah. So, yeah. And so he did. He entered, and then he put the training in. Not a huge amount of training. He paid the price during it, but he got through. He managed to get over the finish line at the 50.
Did you run it alongside, or did you do your own thing?
I think we lasted about 2 miles, something like that.
All right.
And
you didn't get out of is it Delamere Estate? You didn't even
not together, no. But I came at the first checkpoint actually, and as I was coming back up the hill, he was coming down the hill, and I said to him, "Are you doing really well? Keep it going." And he was there or thereabouts, to be fair, but then he picked up quite a nasty knee injury along the way, which he ended up patching himself. I got a great video of him sort of limping across the finish line with his mate do bandage across his knee that he'd done himself. But he's a real warrior. I'm so proud of him, for what he's achieved in his life, and his own recovery from my addiction as well. It's a big part of his life, and so he's worked really hard on himself. And yeah, he's a sucker for punishment as well. He's got himself in for the 50 again in 2024. Yeah, so you can imagine what his Santa sack looks like this year. So it's full of running stuff.
And what was it like being on the stage? Mark's offering you that place. That must have been absolutely wild.
It's a fine line, really, sometimes when you do things for the right reasons and, diminishing your ego. And, I'm no different to what anybody else can actually achieve if they put their mind to it when they get into recovery. That's the clearest thing about it. I just put a message out on one of the chat groups saying, just a bit about the story and just to give hope to anybody else, really, that finds herself in a sticky situation, addiction related, mental health related. Mark sent me a message and just said, I hope you're at the sort of presentation. Nothing more than that, really. And obviously we were going to be there, but I had no idea he was going to put on the stage,
set you up,
and dangle the carrot of the 100. But it's great, and it's just really nice for the recovery world as well, really.
Yeah.
For it to be recognised and for people to hopefully come to an understanding that they can achieve great things physically. It does take a lot out of you, but it's a good experience, and met some fantastic people. And just doing one of the recce's recently as well, met a couple of people on there, and they're like, "Oh, are you the guy on the stage?" And yeah. Oh, it was really good. And
yeah. That's neat.
They do a wonderful thing. He could take all the plaudits for just being a wonderful race, but they turn the spotlight round onto the community. It's absolutely fantastic what he does. I love it.
Yeah, and what Mark does, again, that word tirelessly, he's constantly giving back to the community. He's constantly striving to find ways in which he can sort of benefit local groups and underfunded groups, and that's really important as well. The whole setup there, the volunteers, the mass of people that they've got is brilliant.
Let's talk a little bit about 2024 Lakeland 100. Rich, I'm just guessing that you might be in the same age category as our esteemed friend Gary.
Just about tip the balance in October, yeah.
Oh, can you be friends?
Can we still be friends?
Start live? Push you away?
Rich has got a coach. I'm winging it.
I've had to get a coach, Gary.
You've got pro. You signed the pro leagues, Rich. Love.
but
I think that's a really good idea, not just because going from 50 to 100 is quite daunting. It's a different prospect, but also somebody just to help you rein it in, know when to go. Yeah, we got to push now, Rich, got to get this session done, or to go, look, your body can't take that. So we're going to have to be a bit wiser with how we train smart rather than more. I imagine that you just need somebody else overlooking you, basically.
Yeah, and that's what he does. It works really well because, it's a real yo-yo situation. That's what I was finding I was doing. And I think that's why I got injured. I had quite a nasty IT band problem before the 50. And it was just overtraining. Each week I was going out, going from 0 to then doing 30, 40 miles on roads sometimes. And, and really paid the price for it. And, running with the aid of a coach that sends you through a program. I've looked at it before and it's quite laborious because a lot of it is repetition with a very, very small increase. So there's nothing that really excites you.
Yeah, especially this time of year. It's not, believe you me, I have to write them. And I'm like, oh, please, guys, let's get out of this winter phase.
The way that it was explained to me, Nathan, it just put it across in such a way that, we're focusing on your A race here next year on the 100. We'll build in a couple of other events because I need that focus. I need something to sort of look forward to, that human nature of actually accomplishing a goal and having that. But, that's staggered through next year. So, yeah, but the main focus definitely on the 100. And as soon as he said those words to me, he said, we're going to get yourself on the start line so that if you had a mirror in front of you, you could be able to look in it and look back at yourself and say you've done everything that you can and you're ready to run it. And I thought, wow, that's enough, really. Not run all of it, by the way. Not run all of it.
Coniston, be a hero out of Coniston, and then.
And I'll be a long way behind Gary, put it that way.
Oh, my goodness me.
Is Sian doing the 50 again? Is she tempted up to the 100?
No, she's not tempted by the 100 at all. She said she's found a limit, and she just loves the 50. She loves it, so she's back in the 50. Sister-in-law, brother-in-law, they're doing the 100 again.
This is an incredible family you've married into, Rich.
Crazy, isn't it? You wouldn't write the script, would you?
I love God's work here. He's like, we're going to get you recovered, we're going to get you strong, then we're going to get you bumped into Sian, and then you're going to get into this incredible family.
It's just brilliant, isn't it? And you couldn't write the script, really. But they're just typical ultra runners, I suppose. I've never met such a community of so many humble people that not just giving back by point of raising money or awareness for anything, but just so kind and understanding, really. And they're in the same frame as that. But there's a whole host of us going up this year. We've got family, and then there's a couple of friends that have got in as well. So I think in total there's about 8 or 9 of us that are all doing it.
Oh my goodness me! And did memory correct? Did Mark extend the offer of some places for some of the people, like the communities that you're working with?
Yeah. So what Mark did was he offered it out as an opportunity for anybody that put the training in to be able to get a place in the 50 as well. I think there's a couple of takers at the moment, but, recovery is very fluid. So, there's no point in registering those people. He's been kind enough to say that those guys, if they're still working hard, and that's fair. You can't go into something even like the 50 and, there's a big misconception, it's just the 50. It's 50 miles of, harsh terrain. It's a big distance to cover, a lot of elevation. So, they need to make sure that they're prepared and that they're ready for it if they still want to do it. It's not a given.
You just touched a bit then on the work that you do with others now. Is that your sort of day job now, is that you work with others in recovery, or is that something that, or do you do something different?
Yeah, so I recently moved jobs. So I now work with a particular project that we were working on, which was renovating an old school to become a community recovery hub. So, and I work for the company that bought the school. So I actually work as a community project manager. It all seems very strange how it's all sort of come about from.
It doesn't seem strange at all. I truly believe in your circle. It's amazing the way it's all come together.
Just a homeless chronic alcoholic to where I'm at today, really. So I work for a company that's got a big social interest in giving back into the community. And that's one of the reasons why I made the move. There's a big element of what they do to provide the local community in and around North Wales with funding and monies for things that they can't do or will never be able to raise the money for. So I've got a sort of divided role really. So 50% of the time I'm doing that, and then 50% of the time I'm learning, working in construction, and working on different construction projects that we've got in the North Wales area as well. So it's amazing, really.
Oh, what a lovely variety of a job as well. Good for a bit of strength as well, bit of construction. Andy was very keen on his building work for his extra gym work.
Yeah, I think my son's got quite a physical job, so he's got that benefit, but it's not hands-on actually. So a lot of the time it's all.
You're pointing, going, that needs to be built there, my man.
In essence, pretty much, yeah.
I know. I watch Grand Designs. I've seen it all. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so, grand designs on a commercial basis, something like that. Yeah.
Lakeland 100 next year. What does the future look like for Rich Price? Any sort of things you'd still like to achieve? Bucket list races?
Yeah, and dare I say, and I've had this conversation, but listening to your podcast, The Winter Spine, and just how horrific it was, weirdly appealing. I've had that conversation about potentially 2025, but it's a long way off yet. I think
it comes round real quick, Rich. It's within a flash. You're on that start line thinking, what the hell? Once you get that itch as well, you can't ignore it. You've got to get it. You've got to do it.
I think really that's it for me, really. The next step would be a multi-day event. It's something I haven't done. You know, I
Dragon's Back race.
Do you know, honestly, and again, you know, watching you there, and you know, and following you on that, Gary, you know, that looks incredible as well. But I think the Winter Spine really is, for me, you know, dealing with the conditions as well. And I know you're dealing with the heat, but you know, turning 50 now, the slightly strapped through the door, and I've got a coat on, so I think.
So basically, you're saying the Spine is much harder than the Dragon's Back. So
I knew you were going to say that straight up.
That's for you two to argue about, to be honest with you.
Classic.
But yeah, there's just something about it, and you know, listening to how, you know, and just the weather conditions, and I think the mental challenge of being able to deal with that as well will pay itself dividends in the long run. Any multi-day event really, where you've got to get up and you've got to face those blisters, you've got to face the aches and the pains, and still get on with it. And you know, that was my philosophy in early recovery. You know, you've got something in front of you, you're getting up in a day, you've got no choice. We have got a choice, but really, if you want to be successful, you've got to get through it. You've
got such the mindset for either the Spine or the Dragon's Back, because that's all it is. The physical side will really only get you through, you know, the first 50 miles of the Spine or day one of Dragon's Back, and then the rest is, well, no one's coming to help me. The only person who can help me out of this, get me to the finish, and who's going to get me to the finish is me. You know, you're going to have some pretty frank conversations with yourself, be strong in your head, and you must have done that tenfold, 10 million times, many times over. So
we'll see. We'll see what happens. But the main
Let's get Lakeland 100. Let's just see how you feel at Buttermere in the middle of the night, and get that done. Get that done well first.
Yeah, and I had a real sort of baptism of fire. I hadn't done the first recce, anything covered in the first quarter. So when they did the recce recently, and we had horrendous conditions. And I think it was pretty much the same consensus amongst everybody that hadn't done it before, which was, you know, how the hell am I going to put another 80 miles on top of this?
Yeah, but winter recce's, they are
super tough this time of year. You know, it's guaranteed sunshine end of July. It's nailed on.
Do shorts and t-shirt, couple of electrolytes, a gel, shorts and t-shirt, you'd be fine.
I can't wait to see you, Rich, and all your entourage. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
Oh, well, that'll all be out in the courses as well, won't they? You know, that'll be the cool thing. So, you know, we were only talking the other day about times and timings and things like that, and not forecasting that much. But, you know, there's a good possibility that hopefully we'll bump into each other. The thing is, everybody's doing it this year, so there'll be nobody out on the course to cheer us on this year. We'll all be going so.
You'll see the 50 runners, all your people that you know who are doing the 50. Yeah, they might catch you up. It depends what time you go through Dalemain, actually, I suppose. But super exciting. I've got one last question. It is rewinding a bit. Apologies for that. But are there any tools that you use, you know, during the day in, day out, just to keep you on track?
I had a sponsor in AA that said to me that, you know, the world record for sobriety is 24 hours, because that's all you've got. You know, so every day when I get up, I go through a particular routine, work out a situation of, you know, how I'm going to get through the day, to do the right thing by other people, to take myself out of the equation and to try and keep myself as humble as possible and as grateful as possible, really, and just keeping it in the day. And trying not to, which is very difficult. And Eddie touched on it earlier, but try not to overcomplicate things. My day will be as complicated as I make it. So, and just go through that process on a daily basis. It sounds really laborious and really boring, but it's and then just keeping it really simple. Yeah, is key for me, really, and helping others. That's massive as well. To keep what I've got to give it away. Get somebody else have the benefit of what you pick up and what you learn in recovery as well.
Do you ever find it quite heartbreaking if you can't help someone, having been in that situation where you've fallen back into alcohol again and again and again? Do you ever think now is not, you're not ready yet to get sober, and you have to almost let somebody go on their own journey?
It is heartbreaking. I think it's always a situation, and it's always a fine line between detaching with love and trying to sort of, and I suppose that comes with a bit of experience as to when somebody is ready and when somebody isn't ready. It is a fine line, and I'm amazed I haven't got emotional through this, because the reality of the situation is that I've lost a lot of good friends that I've made in recovery that have gone back out there. That realization that I'm only a drink away from being that statistic. There's always a situation where you can do something for somebody. It's not a case of saving somebody's lives, just passing on kindness. And, what was shown to me, very, very early on and still today, giving somebody a lift to a meeting, helping somebody, just being there for somebody, those are the things that have stuck in my mind that I try to give somebody. It is a fine line between impressing so much onto somebody or letting somebody just go a little bit and making their own way. And there is no magical answer with that, because everybody's totally different and everybody's recovery is as individual as their thumbprint. It's a case of just being there and just doing what you can do.
Even just a small act of kindness just goes such a long way. I think
it's great. It's how I like to try and live my life as well. And it's like how I'd like the kids to see. There's lots of people around here. Actually, we live in a ski resort, which is probably, like a lot of places, has the wealthiest of people and then the poorest of people as well, and people who can't afford to have a car or are sharing a room with 6 other people while they build the houses for the wealthy people. So I always try and show acts of kindness, give people lifts. There's a lot of hitchhiking, actually, and give people, a lift down the road if it's snowy or something, even though I'm like, I don't have time for this. I'm a busy person. We're not really that busy, are we? I'm certainly not.
It's a lesson from that. And, we joke about it sometimes, but very on in the early days, having to practice that, it's something that didn't come natural to me as a person, having living the life I'd led before and, doing those acts of random kindness didn't come a natural thing. I had to work at it, but then you soon realise that, it's something that you don't give to receive, but you realise the impact and the positivity it has on that other person, and it becomes infectious. And you just want to do more and more and more of it. And sometimes you can do it on a bigger scale, and you can go and do what we did last year and raise a lot of money. Other times it can just be by, throwing, which I used to do in the early days, throw a few bags in the back of a car for an old dear on a shopping car park. It's one of those, isn't it? And that's fundamentally, it's not about scale and it being grand. It's all about being in a situation where you're actually doing what you can. Everybody can do something. Everybody can do something, whether it's time, finances, whatever it is. Everybody can do a little something.
And I think as runners as well, we can be quite selfish in our pursuit for this individual goal, whatever that can be as well. And sometimes showing a little bit of kindness either to our nearest and dearest, saying, you have that long run slot. I'm not going to run. I'll have the kids. You go and do that, or whatever, or a little bit, it's not all about us. Volunteering at a race, doing something, helping out somebody who's not, a newbie to running club or something. There's all sorts of different ways that we can sort of branch out and not just be like, it's all, if I don't get on that Lakeland 50 start in my best shape, actually, sometimes not getting there in your best shape, but actually having been a good parent or doing something for other people will actually make you have a better race, because sometimes it's character actually, rather than the physical strength that comes through in these super long ultras.
Yeah, and that, again, that is really important, because it's a totally different sport, isn't it? I was talking to somebody the other day, and as I said to them, that ultra running is so different. If you look at the percentages, if you've got the World Championship 1500 meters, there's probably, let's say for argument's sake, 10 or 15% of those people that are on the start line have got a possibility of winning the race or being on the podium. If you equate that to ultra running, it's going to be way less than 1% of the people that start and have got a chance of winning. Therefore lies the question is, why is everybody else there? And that creates an amazing community of people that I've only seen that are just so kind and encouraging. And those are the principles that you can put into life. And, and it just made me think of when I was doing the recce recently. I was going up Black Sail and, it was hard going. And I was on the poles. And I turned back and I saw this guy who was about my age. And I don't know who he was, to be honest with you, but he just came, pardon the pun, he came sailing up Black Sail. And he looked like he wasn't even moving. And there's a few guys that I was sort of running with or walking with. And we kind of stepped to one side. And as he came past, he just tapped me on the backside like that. And as he overtook it, and it was a really nice gesture. And he just said, go on like this. And he got a little tag hanging off the back of his pack. And it just said, keep going, you're doing amazing.
Oh.
You know what I mean? And, somebody that's just full of talent, full of ability, super fit. And he's going back. But he knows that. And I actually thought at the time, it's a bit of ego. Well, no, it isn't. He just passing on a message to say, just keep going, you're doing all right.
Yeah.
And that's the message, isn't it, when you're on these races? They're just full of such kind of people. And the Lakeland, the support on there and going through Ambleside, wow, that was just amazing feeling.
Going to be even more amazing this year when you get to Ambleside, because you will be only hours away from that finish.
Yeah, well, we stood there last year and my son and I watching Sean come through, and we called it the 1,000-yard stare on the 100 runners as they're coming through, and just look as if they've been dropped from a different planet, as if to say, where am I now? And just, so.
You're going to love it. You're going to love it.
They do look different.
It's
try and raise a smile at least anyway.
Yeah, you're going to be a celebrity by the time you get through there.
Oh, no. Or, I mentioned anyway, already have imposter syndrome. So, some of the company that has been on the podcast has been incredible. I've learned so much from it as well. So.
Oh, thanks, Rich. Appreciate that. Yeah. Oh my goodness me. Talk about imposter syndrome. But I flip it though, Rich. I think, what the hell am I doing here? But then I think, wow, what an opportunity I've got to share the mic with all these wonderful people. So yeah, that's the way I kind of get over that imposter syndrome these days. But it's been a treat. But before you go, got the quick 1, 2, 3, 4, we've got 6. I added 1 because I know there is a dog in the room. But yeah, first question, is the dog allowed on the furniture in your household, Richard?
Yes.
Yeah. We can still be friends.
I want the screen. I'm pretty sure if we just move the screen down to see that little doggy.
We've moved the furniture around for the Christmas tree, and Rex's chair. Poor Rex, he's totally confused. His chair is now not his chair for the Christmas period, but he still goes on the chair. That's not my fault. I didn't do it, but it's it's confusing, the poo dog. Okay, next question. How long do you think you'd survive in a zombie apocalypse?
I don't know, actually. It's a good question. I don't know. You just keep on moving, wouldn't you? What a random question.
I wrote these. I love it.
Eddie's
impossible to answer.
I think you do really well, because you go back to like your basics and you'd be like, right, I need a tin of beans in my backpack and I've got to just keep moving. I've got to ration these beans. I've got to get good people around me. I've got to not get bitten by the zombie.
Well, we've been watching these survivor programs, Sean's into these sort of survivor programs where people just get dumped in the middle of nowhere, and she's like, oh, that would be horrific. How do they survive? And I'm like, God, I wouldn't mind bash at that.
Yeah.
Getting dropped off in the middle of Canada and having to survive, I wouldn't mind having a go at that.
Sounds like magic. Sounds like a dream.
I get the dogs' leads around me and pretend that I am surviving when I take them for a walk sometimes, and that's like my rope. I need to collect some.
I can believe that.
The kids watch that Bear Grylls where you're like, you choose which bit you're going to do, and they're always trying to kill him off, but he always survives. So
I'll hedge my bets and I'll give it a good bash, put it that way.
Next question. We're going to rewind to teenage Rich Price, what posters are going to be on your bedroom wall?
Oh, it was Rambo.
Yes.
Oh my God, I can't believe you mentioned Rambo during the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah,
Classic.
it was Rambo all the way, and Army Pictures had incredible ideas to enter all the Royal Marines when I left school and all that sort of stuff.
I used to love Stallone. Yeah, Rocky, Rambo, definitely. Okay, what app? How do you even find this out, Eddie? I wouldn't know how to find which was the most popular app. But yeah, which app on your phone do you use the most?
Go to settings.
I've got school day. Yeah,
Settings.
your most popular app.
Settings, screen time.
Hang on.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not going to tell you my screen time. God's sake, that's a big reveal.
Okay, go to settings, screen time, and then go see all activity.
I can't even find screen time.
Go to settings.
Yes. General.
Yeah, and then no, just settings. Go down past Bluetooth. And it's and then it's just about 4 down, screen time.
Oh, screen time. I've got it. Yeah.
On that, and then go to see all activity under the little bars of your daily average.
Oh,
Click on that,
boring.
and then most used.
Well, Facebook, and then closely followed by Apple Podcasts.
Mine's come back as Outlook.
Oh, so that's your browser. Yeah, it's your browser, isn't it?
Yeah,
No, it's email, isn't it?
Yeah, email. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
So Rich is doing work. Gary's doing sort of work.
Outlook, Facebook, and Garmin.
Come on, Eddie. Spill the
Spotify,
beans.
WhatsApp,
Disney.
yeah. Disney. Like a princess. Spotify, WhatsApp. You can then click on WhatsApp. This is really exciting podcasting. But you
wrote this question for yourself, Eddie.
You can see on average how many messages you get a day.
Oh, wow.
And that's quite scary. Anyway, I thought it was a good new question. No, people.
That was a good question. I liked it.
You know, people. You let me know. Poll on Facebook if you liked the
Facebook.
what's your best app? Because I do it to Bryn because he comes home and opens up straight on his Instagram. I'm like, what you doing? Go on Instagram all the time. And he's like, I've had 2 minutes free time today. Let me
leave him alone. This is a bit creepy, this question. Sorry, Rich. But what would you do if you could become invisible for a day? It's a creepy superpower, invisibility.
What would I do?
Yeah, what would you do if you could become invisible for a day? Where'd you get these questions from, Eddie? Is there
yesterday, I think it was in a bit of a strange mood.
Do you know, I'd probably what would I do? I don't think, it sounds really boring, doesn't it? But I'd probably just sort of plant myself somewhere in the middle of somewhere where I could just go and people watch. I love people watching, but where you're not going to be seen and nobody's going to sort of see you and that type of thing. So nothing exciting.
Would I like to go to somewhere like Buckingham Palace or somewhere to
Houses of Parliament?
Yes, it was.
I'd just start writing new laws and legislations.
Somewhere where you couldn't normally get in. I wouldn't want to go around like any of my friends' houses or anything in case you heard things that you'd never been or seen.
Oh, no. Dangerous. That is dangerous.
Yeah, I better rethink actually. It'll be in Gary's gym so I can keep an eye on what he's doing with his strength work.
Oh, I think you'd be very disappointed.
Under wraps, that is.
Just on Facebook.
Yeah. Spamming it on Instagram. Okay, last question. Every week we share our podcast over on Instagram and we're going to do an Instagram story. Actually, you can do a music on a post too. I didn't realize this, but yeah, you got the choice, Rich. What song is it going to be this week?
It's going to have to be Proclaimers. I'm going to be 500 miles that they do for the Slate at the 100.
Oh, yeah, I love that song.
Cool. Is that a goal? You going for the Slate?
I thought we were trying to keep it to next year, but it would be amazing. It would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Do you have to do it? Do you have to do it consecutive years, or can you...
just five finishes?
Oh, okay.
So yeah, in the back of my mind, the Slate before I'm 60.
Oh, let's make it happen! Awesome, I love it. Oh wow!
In the next 10 years.
Cool. Oh, that'd be awesome. Well, you've been super generous for your time today, Rich. Really appreciate it. I'm sure our listeners are going to love this conversation. Yeah, thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Lovely to meet you. Hopefully meet you out on the trails in real life. We can instead of interfacing. And good luck with all your preps for the 100. Keep us posted.
Will do.
Thanks. Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, guys.
What a legend. What a legend. What a family. I look forward to seeing how he gets on at the Lakeland 100. And I love making these new friends on the podcast. You know, we dip into their lives for a couple of hours, and then you feel like if you met them on the trail, you'd have a hug and be like, you share that special moment, but it means a lot. So thanks a lot, Rich, for sharing your journey with us, and good luck for next year.
Tales from the Trails, and it's a winter, apologies Eddie, sorry about this, but it's a winter themed Winter Downs 200. Top of the charts for the mileage. Jacko Swart, 224 miles, 224.9 miles. Don't want to rob you of anything, Jacko. Amazing. And Zoe Norman, sorry to see that you retired, Zoe, but you're still
Zoe.
91, over 91, nearly 92 hours there. Oh my goodness me. And Danielle Harris, fourth lady, 19 overall. Heavy flex. Danielle, 24,075 feet over there. Oh my goodness me. Well done, everybody. And it was a bit of a whitewash for the Winter Downs 200, but it was only going to be that way.
Who right? Who right? Do you know what my Strava said to me on the start? It said you need to run 203 miles to make it 3,000 miles for the year.
Okay.
And I was like, that is just makes me feel sick. Yeah, because the race was 203 miles.
That's right. You might remember also, oh, goodness me, quite a few months ago, Anthony Oz reached out with the Tales from the Trails. He did complete the Winter Downs 200, 89 hours. It's really hurting my head to think people were out moving for that amount of time. And in 2019, Anthony was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. So we salute you. Sorry to hear his Garmin had a little mishap, so he's been robbed of the full stats over on Strava. I'm not too sure exactly how many miles Strava.
I think you can get you can go to Open Tracking and get your GPX.
Oh, make it so, Anthony. But well done, awesome. Thanks for reaching out.
Hello, Gary and Eddie. Hello. I'm not sure this is how he speaks, but let's just go. I can't keep that up all the way through. I'm a regular listener during my long runs and absolutely love your podcast. My husky, Gunner, and I run together Canicross style all the time and have done plenty of trail marathon and 50K races, with our next race being planned a 40-miler in the Black Mountains, the Limitless Trails Beast of the Blacks. Imagine my absolute delight and bemusement when, on listening to your latest episode whilst putting up the Christmas lights outside, love how he sets the scene there, I heard my name mentioned during your weekly delve into the Strava group. I was really on a high at being included, assuming that you'd decided to honour the humble achievements of some of your more mid-pack runners. I proudly and excitedly ran in the house to play it back to my wife. On the second play, though, I realised I'd been credited with a total weekly elevation of over 19,000 feet. I was a bit puzzled, as even with a short 15K race in Snowdonia the Saturday before, our total ascent would have been nowhere near this, especially as we're still in the early stages of training. It appears that for one of our totally unimpressive 5 a.m. pitch black, head torch equipped, bleary-eyed 5K pavement shuffles before work, my watch had completely misfired and credited me with the elevation of 18,232 feet over 3 miles, completed in a time of 33 minutes. What a run that would have been. Whilst I've enjoyed basking in the glory of this superhuman performance, I played it to my boy Charlie, who didn't spot the mistake and was well impressed and is going to do a round of the extended family as well. Christmas lunch. I reckon you could just replay it. Yeah. I felt I owed it to the pod to come clean. The actual elevation for that week would have been a far less impressive and frankly embarrassing 1,727 feet. It's not super impressive. Anyway, whilst admitting that I'm a distinctly average, middle of the pack at best runner, I'm super proud of my dog and I'm grateful for the message, and also reminded, as often am by the incredible Tales from the Trails stories you feature, that none of us are that average at all. Like a lot of you listeners, a lot of our 25 to 50 miles per week, depending on the stage of training, are completed at an ungodly hour of the morning before anybody else gets up, so as not to interfere with either work or family life. I'm always accompanied by the dog and have to consider this challenge when training. It's hard to do some workouts. He doesn't like recovery weeks. And when I do manage an interval, it can be annoying when he stops to poo, just going into the high pace section. Oh, I love that. Ooh, Whoopsie, missed a minute. Nevertheless, I love our partnership and the astonishment I'm greeted with when on a race and people realize he's going to run the whole ultra with me and they witness his effort, stamina, and good nature is a source of real pride. He's an astonishing animal who pees on, it sounds like Gary. He's an astonishing animal who pees on everything in sight during training and is prone to all kinds of distractions. Yet as soon as the race starts, could not be more focused. If it wasn't for the 2 huskies I've had, I would still be a couch potato and most likely an unrecovered alcoholic. These 2 dogs and running have totally changed my life, regardless of my weekly elevation. Anyway, I just wanted to fess up. Keep up the great work on the podcast. It's totally brilliant. James Maiden. Honesty trumps everything, as I tell the kids. Always tell the truth because it will come back to you, James. We love the story. Thank you for sharing it and keep up the good work. Let us know what Gunner's next adventure is. We love reading out your stories. So if you have a Tales from the Trails, please send it over to hello@tandtrails.com.
We're so full up. The 5-star review cupboard is full up. I absolutely love it. Number 1, let's start right at the top. Perfect Medicine, episode 44 and 45. The intro music has an instant calming. So that's already 10 out of 10.
Gary and I, it raises our anxiety.
Danielle's book, ordered. Neil and you two have me laughing on a tediously wet and boring dog walk. Flipped my mood. Just so brilliant. All episodes are fun, informative, and also moving. Thank you all so much. Nikki Hack via Apple Podcasts. Thanks, Nikki.
Love it. Jabo, 1983. Love the chemist. Ooh, Gary, love the chemistry between these pair. Funny and informative, up there with the best podcasts. Up at the top with the best podcasts. Thank you. Thanks, Jabo.
We love reading out your reviews and it is great for the podcast too. So please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. And there is a very good chance we'll read it out.
Do you want your end of year review?
Oh my goodness me. Go on then. I must try harder.
Gary. No. Gary is my little ray of sunshine every week. Sometimes he's the only thing that brings me joy in a world full of pain and suffering.
It is the only grown-up conversation we have sometimes, isn't it?
Would you call this grown up? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a stretch.
What's occurring? Well, your Christmas is you're not having any sugar. You're not having any fun.
Yeah.
What else is happening?
Well, the running plan is 5 times 5 minutes is the big one. And that is the end of the my pre-marathon training plan. So 5 times 5 minutes, 15% on the treadmill. Yeah, fartlek too. I haven't done a fartlek for a while. And again,
nice one to do over Christmas, that fartlek, isn't it? Because it's non-structure, do as you feel.
Yeah, well, the dean is really good. So there's, like you said, there's no structure. Sometimes the rest is quite extended because there's a gap between the hills. And yeah, the hills definitely get the heart rate going up too. And a 2-hour-long run with some strides. It's funny because I feel like I should have more time than normal because it is Christmas.
Oh.
But we'll see. I know, it just seems to fly by. If we get all that done, do you run on Christmas Day? I always go for a run on Christmas Day.
Yeah, nothing mega. Just a little 4 or 5 miles with the dogs.
Yeah.
Just so that I can eat a mince pie when I get home for a pre-breakfast run, post chaser.
I love a little Christmas Day run. But yeah, it seems to kind of make it okay to eat more. I shouldn't do that. It's not a food, isn't it? A reward, isn't it, from running? But yeah, I do seem to.
Well, it's just your appetite. It's nice if you've had a bit of.
Yes. I've already done one strength session, so that is a result. Normally, I don't start those until
I haven't done one yet. It's Tuesday. We're going to cram it in.
I just did it at home. Did this one at home. So hopefully I get at least 1 or 2 done before the end of the week. And yeah, lots of rushing around for Christmas, and I keep saying it, but this week I will finally get my silver head torch review uploaded to YouTube, and that is it. Yeah, just keep it simple, keep everything quiet.
Are you just having a quiet family Christmas?
Yes. I don't think anything is planned. I don't think anyone. We're not invited anyone around for dinner.
Do you have
Not going anywhere.
do you have lunch or do you have dinner?
Oh, it's just whenever it happens. There's no real structure in the house. Whenever I get it done, for some reason, I really do like to camp out in the kitchen and do all the cooking. I do want to bake. I want to bake something for Lisa and Esme because they are the strict vegetarians in the house.
BBC nut roast, you can't go wrong with it. BBC good food nut roast.
Oh, I could do. Yeah, there's some recipes in my finished cooking book that I could quite easily twist and make them vegetarian. But Lisa's just gonna buy something frozen from Aldi, I think. Less work for Gary. Less work.
Yeah. Well, people want to see you too. They don't want you in the kitchen.
Well, I just go where everybody else isn't.
I've got one of those too.
How about you? Your week is surely more exciting. Your kids are smaller than mine. They're a lot more excited for Christmas.
The Christmas magic has arrived. And there's something magical about Christmas here because it's snowy, man, the mountains, it's cold. Fingers crossed we've got snow coming on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day and it doesn't turn to rain. But we'll see. Yeah, I'm going to do a couple more days skiing this week. I've already skied yesterday and today and hopefully fit in a couple more before the tourists arrive on the Saturday and then I will go near. Oh, no. There's not enough. Oh, Gary, it's terrifying. The queues, the people, and they've come to enjoy their ski Christmas break. I'm going to let them do that. I've
never done that. I stayed in a cottage once for New Year. I've never went away for Christmas holiday. Would you do that?
Yeah, probably. Especially if somebody else, but then the admin, like, how do you do it? But I know lots of people do it, obviously, because they all come here. I'll just hide. I've got my secret car parking place and I will take the lovely electric car with the heated seat and my book and I will just hide at the bottom of the piece and wait till the kids message me saying we're on the way down. Because the kids ski every day apart from Christmas Day. Oh, their poor little legs. Their legs go from being quite slim to the quadriceps slowly getting bigger and bigger. So that's full on for them. So I'm just taxi driver, provider of calories. I'm going to carry on. I'm not going to run very much. I will run 3 or 4 times a week, short runs, nice and short, nice and cruisy, easy. But I'm going to carry on working on my bike fitness, enjoying my Swifting. Someone set up a Morzine club. So we all rode together. This is so sad. Have I told you this?
No.
This is so sad. So we all went on Swift at the same time and then you could all ride together and then we talk to each other on this Discord, on this channel at the same time. And you can ride at any pace, so you can set a barrier so someone can be pushing more watts than the other, but you're all just riding together in a group.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Yeah, so it was just an hour and we just do that. We're doing that every week and then we'll also do a workout. And again, you set your own levels, but you all work out at the same time. So you like chat in the warm up and then it all goes quiet. A bit like a run club, but you're just not together. Yeah. So I'm just going, I'm enjoying doing that. And it's easy. Also, I find it really, when I've been skiing, when I come home, I don't really want to go out again. You feel a bit like, whoa, windswept. So it's quite nice to do the bike and it's different muscles. And then once the kids, I might do a bit of ski touring, but once the Christmas is over, January starts, I'll get on my uphill, get working, get back up now of that. But my main thing, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, I want the stroke and the body to be niggle-free, super replenished, ready to turn my head towards 2024, of which I already have 2 people are going to be like, don't do it to us, Eddie. No more. Just retire. Ooh, just retire. But I will not. My time will come, my friends. And when it does, we shall all celebrate by lifting our National Running Show trophy together. Anyway, I hope you have a lovely Christmas, Gary. Have you got have you got a Christmas, what's on top of your Christmas list?
Oh, I think I mentioned it before. I just won the Arnie book.
Super sad.
I really, really enjoyed the Arnie. It's obvious.
You did. Is it because you just related so much to him as his Austrian upbringing, his enormous back and biceps,
the big stogies and the Hummer that he drives around in? I've got no idea. The delivery
of his acting lines. I'll be back. It's just like you on the podcast.
Well, he was super. Because it's quite, when you watch Commando and things like that, I think it's fair to say that we didn't really think Arnie was particularly an intelligent person, but I think that was probably hiding behind his accent, really. And
the accent is so thick, considering he's been in America now for 50 years now?
Yeah.
But he still has thoughts.
But he's a switched on and intelligent guy, and he's very aware. I was really, really impressed with it. Yeah, blew me away. And I just loved it. As soon as he said, I think his dad said to him, just be useful. I just thought,
I loved that too. That was the one thing I was like, that's the
Yeah.
one thing I'll probably take from that. If you be anything, just be useful.
and that's the name of his
Useful,
book. So
Barry?
obviously,
I don't think I'm very useful. I think I'm useless.
through the coaches is useful.
Right, come on, we've got things to do, people to talk to.
Whoosh, yes. Okay, yes, let's get the kettle on. And thanks to Precision Fuel and Hydration for sponsoring the show. And thanks to our partners and Patreons too. Seriously, guys, we couldn't do this without your ongoing support. Be kind to your future self. Breathe and believe. Progress, not perfection. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow. It is 100% free to subscribe and follow.
Happy Christmas from us to you, all your listeners, and all your family. I hope you have a wonderful time. Don't get stressed fitting in training. Let it go. Let it go. Just a little bit, unless you're doing the arc. So unless you're doing the arc, then sorry, you can't let it go. Keep that pedal to the metal. Just fuel a little bit more with some extra festive treats. And why not listen to your UK's #1 trail podcast as you tuck into your turkey? Turn off those Christmas songs and say, family, hey, grandma, Uncle Trevor, here we go. Let's listen to this podcast. Everyone's going to learn something.
Somebody did. Sorry. So, you know what I said last week? I wonder if somebody downloads the Tea and Trails podcast.
Yes.
They did.
Graham. He downloaded and he listened and he messaged from a checkpoint to say, I'm listening. And he finished.
Okay.
Super cute. Super cute. Great. Anyway, happy Christmas, everybody. Gary and I. My name is Eddie Sutton.
And I'm Gary Thwaites.
And that was episode 52 of Tea and Trails.